violate a law or something if I say
Very
it?
good. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our council meeting of October 14, 2024. And please, if you have a cell phone, please silence it or turn it off. Roll call. We have a full council here. And if you would, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. It will be by Councilman Arnold Lopez, and the invocation will be Councilwoman Dusty Brantner.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this day. We thank Thee for allowing us to come together this evening. We pray that Thy Spirit can be with us to help us make the best decisions. We ask Heavenly Father to watch over us, guide us, and protect us as we go throughout our evening. We ask Thee to open our hearts and help us to make the right decisions. We're thankful for all the many blessings that Thou hast placed before us today and all of our days. We're so thankful for all the lives that have been spared from the hurricanes and the floods. We ask that Thou can watch over the survivors and help them to rebuild and replenish their cities. Please watch over our employees as they go throughout their day and keep them safe and healthy. Heavenly Father, we ask Thee to be with us tonight. Allow us to have a good meeting and make the right decisions and get home safely. We say these things in Thy name. Amen.
Thank you. And we'll move on to item number 5, citizen comments on agenda items. There being none, we'll move on to number 6, citizen comments on non-agenda items. No? Okay, then we'll move on to item number 7, presentation. Presentation of service awards from the Arizona League of Cities and Towns. Beatrice?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I would like to take a moment to recognize 4 of our council members who have dedicated countless hours, unwavering commitment, and passion for serving our community. Your leadership and vision have made a profound impact in the city of Safford, helping to shape our community into a better place for all of us. I am pleased to share that these awards have been provided by the League of Arizona Cities and Towns in honor of your years of service on the council. On behalf of the city of Safford, we thank you for your continued service and dedication to our community. If when you are called, if you could please come to the front for a picture. We are honoring Mayor Richard Ortega with serving a total of 24 years on the City of Safford Council. We're honoring Vice Mayor Arnold Lopez for serving a total of 12 years on the City of Safford Council. Councilman Mike Andazola serving a total of 8 years on City of Safford Council. And Councilman Steve McGoy for serving a total of 8 years of the City of Safford Council. Again, we thank you on behalf of the City of Safford. Thank you.
A lot of years.
No, I'm fine.
Force the habit.
I didn't do it for the plaque.
Thank you, everybody. And we'll move on to item number 8, the proclamation. And Troy, would you come up first before we do this? I think you had some things to say.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and distinguished members of City Council. I want to begin by expressing my deepest gratitude to the Safford City Council for recognizing National Women's Small Business Month. This proclamation carries significant weight as it acknowledges the contributions of women entrepreneurs across our community and our country. It is remarkable to think, as recently as 1988, women needed a male relative to co-sign in order to open a business. This history is not distant, and it is a reminder of the barriers that once stood in the way of women's economic independence. Today, there are over 14 million women-owned businesses in the United States. Safford's very own Main Street is a testament to the impact women-owned businesses in our community bring. However, we know that the journey for women in business is still not without its challenges. The courage, the resilience, and the perseverance is not only recognized, but continued to support. I am proud to be a part of a community that values the diversity, equality, and incredible potential that women-owned businesses bring to our economy. I also want to extend my gratitude to all of the women-owned businesses in Safford and throughout our country, as well as to the allies and supporters who uplift us. Together, we are building a stronger, more vibrant community. This proclamation isn't just about today, it's about a celebration of the progress we've made and a reminder to keep pushing forward. So thank you for your continued support and commitment to supporting women entrepreneurs. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and read the proclamation, and
Thank you,
then
sir.
we'll vote on it. Proclamation of National Women's Small Business Month, October 2024. Whereas working women constitute 75.54 million and almost half of our nation's workforce, and strive to serve their communities, their state, and their nation in professional, civic, and cultural 14 million women-owned businesses in the United States, generating 2.1 trillion in sales and employing 10.5 million people. And whereas working women should be applauded for their contribution to the workplace and the financial stability of their families, especially during the economic downturns when more women have become their family's breadwinner. And whereas a central purpose of this month is to promote equality for all women and to help create better conditions for working women through the study and advocacy of social, economic, educational, and economic issues impacting women in the workplace. And therefore, be it resolved, I, Richard Ortega, Mayor of Safford, by the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim October as 2024 National Women's Small Business Month. We urge all citizens, businesses, and community organizations in the city of Safford to join this salute to the working women and business owners. We encourage and promote the celebration of the achievements of all working women and female business owners as they contribute daily to our economic, civic, and cultural goals and livelihood. Thank you. Then we'll close the regular meeting and
We need
it's an action item. I'm sorry.
I make the motion that we approve the proclamation declaring October as National Women's Small Business Month.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve October 2024 National Women's Small Business Month. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. Okay, we'll close the regular meeting and reconvene into a public hearing.
Mayor,
But
do we see Beth, these ladies want to be seated? Okay. Okay, Mayor, sorry.
as required by the Arizona Revised Statute 42-17104, a public hearing will be held for the purpose of hearing comments from the public on the following items. Number one, Retrograde Brew and Barbecue Company liquor license application.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I request to hold a public hearing relating to the liquor license application for a Series 007 beer and wine liquor license that was submitted by Brian K. Norton, an agent on behalf of Redson Ventures LLC for Retrograde Brew and Barbecue Company located at 615 South Fifth Avenue. The City Clerk Office, we received an application from the Arizona Department of Liquor Licensing for the new Series 7 beer and wine liquor license. The license was submitted again by Brian Norton for the business of Retrograde Brew and Barbecue Company. Mr. Norton is currently in the process of renovating at 615 South Fifth Avenue for the new business of the Retrograde Brew and Barbecue Company, which is a brewery and a barbecue restaurant. This new business is located within the Safford Entertainment District, which was approved by resolution in 2019. In accordance with the Arizona Revised Statute 4-201, a public hearing is required for the application process for the liquor license. The City Clerk Office did not receive any comments from the public. And for this, I stand for any questions.
Any comments from the public here present? Not, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and reconvene into the regular meeting. We'll go to item number 12, new business. First item, Retrograde Brew and Barbecue Company liquor license application.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So after the public hearing, staff does request for either approval or disapproval of the liquor license that was submitted for a Series 007 beer and wine liquor license submitted by Brian K. Norton, agent on behalf of Redson Ventures LLC for Retrograde Brew and Barbecue Company, which is going to be located at 615 South Fifth Avenue. Again, the City Clerk Office did not receive any comments, and there was no comments made at the public hearing. Staff recommends that Council does give the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control the recommendation of approval for the Series 7 beer and wine license application. And I also wanted to note that he did submit also for a Series 3. It's just the mailing time from when I got it. It was past the cutoff time for me to bring that one as well. So don't be confused. At our next meeting, I will bring the application for him as well for a Series 3. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Move we give the State Liquor Board a favorable recommendation. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Retrograde Brew and Barbecue Company liquor license application. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Then we'll move on to item number 2. The minutes of meeting September 23rd, 2024. Were there any questions, revisions?
Mayor, I make the motion that we approve the minutes from September 23rd, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of September 23rd, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Then we'll move on to item number 3, Planning and Zoning Commission, new member. Request for the mayor and the city council to select an applicant for the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'm presenting this on behalf of Jamie Imbeck, our Director of Planning and Community Development. The purpose, staff has received 3 applications for the vacant position on the Planning and Zoning Commission and requests that council appoint 1 applicant for the position. Strategic goals include public information and outreach. The volunteers on the Planning and Zoning Commission serve an important role in reviewing code updates and development projects at public meetings. The background, Tracy O'Donnell has resigned from the Planning and Zoning Commission after serving with dedication as chair and a commissioner. City staff posted the vacancy for residents to apply and has received applications from 3 qualified residents. The city clerk has provided the applications to the council to review. Analysis, staff has received applications from 3 qualified applicants and requests that council appoint 1 to fill the vacancy. That said, I'll stand for any questions.
I would just like to make a statement that all 3 very qualified individuals, and I'd like to just put one name out there that I would like to see on it is Cynthia Forgash DeMarcus. That would be my choice.
I agree.
That would be my choice as well, Mayor.
So, Mayor and Council, so in this case, the new process by ordinance would be simply to make a motion for anyone that you would like to appoint. Someone would second it as with any action item, and then you would vote on it.
And that was my motion to select Cynthia Forgash DeMarcus. That was a motion.
I'd second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to appoint Cynthia Forgash DeMarcus and a second. All in favor?
I got a question.
Go ahead.
I was hesitant to vote on any of these because I didn't recognize any of them myself. And I'm glad somebody did know something about them because not only do they need to have the interest of our community, they do the other board they're going on, you certainly want to be able to work with that board. And so I was hoping to hear some history about some of them because I knew nothing. And
I know
so-
myself, I talked to, I'll call her Cindy, myself.
If that's all right.
Go ahead. Yeah, it's fine.
And just for your history, I did grow up here. I went to Safford Schools, Safford High School, graduated from Eastern Arizona College. Then I went to Western. And after I graduated with an accounting degree there, I decided to move to Phoenix. Thought I had, broadened my horizons and other job opportunities, especially for accounting in that area. So I was gone for 20 some years. My career in Phoenix was in accounting at CPA firms. I also worked for high-tech training companies. We developed e-learning platforms, and then I also worked at Mayo Clinic in Scottsdale for quite a few years. And at that time, my kids were old enough where I could move back to the community. I decided to move to Clifton because my grandmother was still living in Clifton at the time, and she was 90 years old, so I wanted to be near her. I got a job with Freeport McMoran in the Morenci Accounting Department. I was there for a few years. I decided to go into supply chain management because accounting is a very difficult career. I'm not sure if any of you know that, but you work a lot of hours and there's a lot of harsh deadlines. So after my grandma passed, I was able to be there with her, and 2 weeks later, I found out my job got transferred to Phoenix again through Freeport. So I went to Phoenix. COVID hit. I was at corporate for a few months, and we got to work from home. So, of course, after for sure I knew I could come back to my hometown finally and be here, I, I'm here. I've been here 3 years. I am very involved in St. Vincent de Paul here, and I'm on treasurer on the board. And I saw this opportunity come up, and I was really excited about it because I've always wanted to get involved in my community. Some of my biggest heroes, I grew up here, Nellie Placencio, she was the treasurer for many years. Um, I have also many school teachers that were my heroes too, that went above and beyond all the time and committed their time to the community. I feel like I need to do the same thing, and I'm at a point, my kids are older, that I have the extra time outside of work that I can commit now. And I saw this opportunity. I was very excited. I know that Safford is going to grow substantially in the next 20 to 30 years with the Freeport Lone Star project. There's going to be a huge need for housing development. I'm always concerned about the kids. I'm also on the Safford High School Scholarship Foundation here, making sure they get a good education. We have the university, well, there's university opportunities through EAC, getting them scholarships, getting them educated, opportunities to work at the mine, and a lot of other businesses that'll be coming in to support the mine. Plus, the small business development is very important to me. Seeing Main Street getting cleaned up and the beautification of it has been personally it means a lot to me. And I'm really glad that that focus was made on it. And so whatever I can do to help, and this is an opportunity that I can donate my free time and it's manageable with my full-time job. So I would appreciate your consideration. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I don't for you, ma'am. I don't. But our process used to be that the mayor appointed the people on the commission, and we changed the policy to where now it's here. And we need to clean this up a little bit to where we can give the other people who wanted to be on here maybe a chance to speak also, or to meet them of some kind. But if you got a good feeling about it, Mayor, I can support you on it.
Right, well, I made the motion and we had a second.
So before we proceed, is there, we updated the ordinance so that this was the process. Do we want to add the ability in the future to also schedule whatever the applicants are? You could actually go into an executive session and go discuss the applications. We could put it on an agenda. I'm not saying you have to do it with this group, you could. And what we could do is make it part of the normal process, so we always know that because you might have 5, 6, 10 applications, and you may want to do that. So I just want to put that out there. If we want to make a change to the process, if there's a desire for a little more time to review the applicants, maybe meet with them, we could make that change if need be. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I was gonna say, as far as I'm concerned, it depends what the council wanted to do, but I read the applications. I talked to them, at least one or two, and I was satisfied. If I have any questions about, some of the matters, I'm gonna go to the source and check it out myself.
Yes, I see that, Mayor. This one's kind of like the last couple we've had where, like the park, we were all kind of clumsy on how we did that. So I'm just saying, let's try to clean this up a little bit for the future. So where we do get to meet the people. And I wasn't sure we should call them or not. Didn't know exactly how to go about it. Are we gonna, so hopefully we can talk and get this straightened out, make it a little better.
That'll be good. Okay, then. So we had a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries, there's one opposed. Okay. Thank you. And we'll move on to item number 4. It's the Kempton Chevy 6-year lease agreement for 11 fleet vehicles. Roy.
Good evening, council and mayor. Let me get this up for you. Share my screen. Council here. All right. All right. I'm here before you tonight to request the mayor and council to authorize and enter into a 6-year lease agreement with Kempton Chevrolet for 11 replacement vehicles for fiscal year 2025 that was in the budget. Kempton is here tonight, so if there's any additional questions that I can't answer, 2 representatives for Kempton are here tonight, and they can answer questions also. So feel free to ask me any questions at the end of this. We believe the strategic goals for this are financial management, infrastructure development and maintenance, and business relationships and development. So 3 big ones for us. During the fiscal year 2022 budget process, we talked about the need for 11 vehicles, so these were in the budget. What we wanted to talk about tonight was the fact that we were using Enterprise FM Trust was the previous lessor that we were using, or lessor. And there's a few things that we would like to get out about that contract. So we had an obligation to do 50 vehicles as kind of a trial period that we were entering into with Enterprise. Throughout the relationship, there's been some issues that we've dealt with Enterprise, the ability to have vehicles, the interest rate that they were charging us, and various other things that I've talked about in my communication form here. We believe that all of those things have been remedied with this contract with Kempton. There's 3 things that I want to point out on my council communication form that why this is a good and advantageous deal is Enterprise was always had certain vehicles unavailable to us. As we talked with Kempton, they have the same ability that Enterprise has at getting fleet vehicles, and they also made available their retail allotment. So whenever we see vehicles that we need, they have a bigger variety than Enterprise in getting those vehicles for us because they have all of GM dealerships to them. The other thing is the interest rate that they're offering us is much lower than what Enterprise is. This interest would only be at 6.026% rather than the 8 or 9% that we were seeing with Enterprise. The overall cost of the vehicles is cheaper to go with Kempton's. The same 11 vehicles with Enterprise was $21,000 more than what we'd be paying with Kempton's. And the best part of this deal is with Kempton or with Enterprise, it was more of a rental. You didn't actually own the vehicle until the end of the term. So all the vehicles that we've rented, the 38 vehicles so far, we just rent them on a monthly basis. The actual buyout occurs at the end of the vehicle, and you'll notice that is how they're plated. They have personal plates on them, not government plates, because they are owned by Enterprise. What Kempton is doing for us is a lease option to buy, which is typically just a debt. So we own the vehicles as if they're ours. We can plate them as we wish, and we own them from the start of the lease, and we get to buy them out with there's no actual payment at the end. It's actually leased throughout the entire term. So everything about this Kempton agreement is better than what we were getting with Enterprise, and I just wanted to bring that before you tonight. And if there's any questions I'd like to answer, then turn the time back over to you guys. Oh yeah, sales tax. One more item, I guess, is the key is sales tax. Kempton is a local dealership, and all sales tax goes back to us. Enterprise promised that they would use local dealerships, and sometimes they did with Horn, Dodge. They were able to acquire some vehicles, but for the most part, their dealings with the city dealerships was minimal. And so all of our vehicles were bought in the valley, except for those few that were bought from Horn Dodge. So this deal actually gets us all sales tax coming back to the city. So another advantageous point of why this is a better deal than Enterprise. So with this tonight, I guess what I'm asking is we're ending our pilot program with Enterprise. We're not ending our relationship with Enterprise. We still have to make those lease payments or rental payments until the 60 months is up. And also Enterprise has offered us some other deals with larger vehicles that you wouldn't typically find on a dealership lot. So we might entertain them in the future for garbage trucks or something like that. So we don't want to end our relationship completely with Enterprise, but we'd like to start our relationship with Kempton for this year's 11 vehicles and then go forward from there. Now I can turn the time over back to you.
So we are signing up for 11 vehicles. Are we receiving them all within 1 year?
That is a question that I will turn to Kempton's.
Because I have an interest rate question.
You want to come up here, Kyle?
Kyle, go ahead, come up here and
They got to get you on the record. You can officially get recorded.
We don't foresee any problem in receiving the allocation and getting them all in 1 year. Now, for me to promise that would happen with the history of COVID and strikes, that weird things could happen. But I see no reason why we can't get them all within 1 year.
So if we don't receive all of them in the 1 year because we are in a declining interest rate environment, will we still be locked in at the 6% even if rates are lower when we receive the new vehicle?
The rate will be locked once we decide when you're gonna take delivery. So I don't foresee the rates going up. I see them
They're gonna
staying
come
the
down.
same, but you don't lock the rate until we know when the delivery's gonna be.
Okay. So if rates have come down, it won't be this 6%, can be lower.
Could be lower.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And my question, sorry, Troy, Mr. Bingham. You said that we were in an agreement for 50 vehicles?
It was a pilot program that we self-entered into the idea of doing 50 vehicles. We
Will
didn't have an
be
obligation.
penalized?
No, we will not be penalized for
Okay.
not doing full 50.
I'm glad you asked that interest one. I was concerned about that. Now, tooling them, when we put toolboxes on them, we still have the same way we go about them. We have to order toolboxes from somewhere else still.
Again, a question for Kempton, how would you do your toolbox financing? I believe it's all into the agreement.
Because if we spec it out with toolboxes, I don't know if that,
So there were several vehicles that had aftermarket products, and we've set that up to do that separate from the vehicle. So any items that you want to put on that aren't part of the Chevrolet product, and we have no problem getting those products for you. Does that answer your question?
yes, sir, because we do outfit them with toolboxes, and I
Yeah.
just want to make sure where we're going to get them, if it's
We
still
have
the same.
access to all those items, utility beds, toolboxes,
But
headache
we're-
racks, whatever you want, flatbeds.
But we're not obligated to get them from you, just mainly the
No.
vehicle. Okay,
Right.
okay. I do have, I still have him, he may stay up there, I don't know. I'm concerned, we take over the service of the vehicles too?
So on these, I believe there is the manufacturer warranty, 3 years, 36,000 miles, and then a powertrain warranty for 100,000 miles. So these actually, the same deal we were getting with Enterprise.
Okay,
That was
because,
an earlier question that you asked me, and I,
yeah,
As far as the maintenance, I think you guys do your own maintenance, correct?
yeah, so
Yeah.
I didn't
But
know the ownership and all that, because, Enterprise, we apparently aren't real satisfied with that. I just want to make sure what the other things are that we're not satisfied about.
Yeah, if
So,
there's a warranty item, you bring them to Kempton's and we'll get right on it.
okay, if it's a warranty item, good, I understand that. There was one other, Mr. Bingham, you also expressed, I think when I talked to you, that where we put monies up to purchase vehicles again once we get going, I think I forget what we call our program that got
our vehicle
started.
replacement fund.
Our vehicle, okay, you were thinking of doing away with that?
So with this guarantee now that we have from Kempton to get what we need when we need it, I think we can start retooling that fund to focus on vehicles that are more ops or more hard to get, meaning backhoes, tractors, things that you wouldn't typically buy at a dealership lot. Our vehicle replacement fund can be dedicated to that because now we have a guaranteed source for all those other vehicles that we get, and we have a guaranteed lease rate with them of some sort, a guaranteed lease term with them that we could guarantee those, and we don't need to put aside funds to basically make last-minute buyouts. So the vehicle replacement fund becomes negligible at this point when it comes to these type of agreements,
We have a guaranteed local source.
and a guaranteed local source also.
Okay, I'm not too crazy about doing away with that program right off the bat.
It will be part of the 2026 budget discussions. We'll have that with you.
I hope we keep that in mind, that we might want to keep that program, because I believe Mr. Sampson put that in years ago, and it's worked well for us.
It has.
So if I don't recognize it, please help me remember when that comes again. When that comes up, I believe that's all I have, Mr. Bingham, Mr. Kempton.
I'm curious how the price is reached on these. Does it go to state bid? Does it go to a bid? Are we comparing it to Enterprise? Or, you said the Enterprise is 21,000 more on this group But how about the next group? Who are we comparing to?
So we still have an agreement with Enterprise. We can do that comparison again at that point. We just find that overall, the pricing with Kempton was much better than what Enterprise was getting on all 11 vehicles, not just individually. One was higher, one was lower. Kempton was able to beat their pricing on all vehicles. I think they do a 3-bid process of all state dealerships when they look for pricing, and Kempton was just able to honor a lower price overall. I guess they really want our business.
Thank you.
Anybody else, any other comments?
Mayor, I make the motion that we approve the Kempton 6-year lease agreement for 11 vehicles.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Kempton 6-year lease agreement for 11 fleet vehicles. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Mayor,
Thank you.
before we get on with the meeting, I'd like to recognize Supervisor Paul David in the audience.
And we'll move on to item number 5, Municipal Advisor 5-year contract. Troy?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You have me for a few more items. This is an item that we previously saw at an August meeting. This is a request for Mayor and Council to authorize and enter into a 5-year contract with Lewis Robertson Birmingham Public and Financial Advisors. This is for financial management. The original contract for Lewis Robinson and Birmingham was presented at the August 12, 2024 council meeting. The item was tabled by council with the request that staff go back and verify pricing amongst other firms. Tonight, I've left you at your dais information about 2 other bidders that we went out and looked in the market to look at their pricing and look at their proposals. Any of these 3 firms could be a great municipal advisor. In talking to any of them, they all understand our needs. They all understand what we're looking for. But I think what you have to do is look at pricing first of all. And I think LRB is a lower price than all 3 of the firms that you have before you. The reason we didn't put them in the packet, we typically don't show outside bidders pricing and how they came to those pricings. So I just gave you that information for your personal information. Also, the understanding of our size and the willingness to come out and meet with us. So LRB has definitely gone over and above to try to earn our business here. And so I appreciate their energetic approach to trying to take on the city of Safford as a municipal advisor. We've never had one before. So this is definitely a new ground for them and new ground for us. So LRB was there, but any of these firms I think could equally do the job. Piper, Sandler and Company is a big firm in the state of Arizona, and the other Columbia Capital is out of Kansas. But they all are licensed to do work in the state of Arizona. So with that further research, I believe that I was able to firmly land with Lewis Robertson and Birmingham. So at this time, I turn the time back over to council to approve this contract.
Anybody, any comments, questions?
So they'll be helping with this, the next thing coming up.
CFDs.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
So yeah, this did come up as a conversation when we did CFDs, so that municipal advisor would be required. So having one on staff would definitely ease that process. We currently have no contracts or requests for CFDs, but we do have the ability to have a municipal contract prior to that, so.
Is this the same that you have prior experience with? And I think the attorney had some prior experience with them.
Mayor, Vice Mayor Lopez. So yes, I've dealt with this firm, never as a municipal advisor. They did give financial advice to a previous government I worked for. I don't know about Bill's relationship with this firm. They're out of Utah. I think Bill is familiar with our bond counsel that he suggested for this, but he isn't familiar with LRB necessarily. I can only speak for him if he's here.
He's traveling. That's all I have, Mayor.
Anybody else? If not, it's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve LRB as a municipal advisor on a 5-year contract.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the municipal advisor 5-year contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. And we'll move on to item number 6, the resolutions. The first one, resolution number R24-032, franchise contract with Valley Telecom.
Mayor, Council, this is a request for Mayor and Council to approve and adopt a resolution R24-032 to renew a 5-year Valley Telecommunication lease agreement for a 2.5 tax collected on receipts paid by subscribers for telephone service. So this is only for telephone, this is not for fiber, this is not for cable. So this is the strategic goal that this touches is financial management. What we're actually offering this provider is the ability to be in our right-of-way and to operate their telephone system. And what they pay us in exchange for that is 2.5% of their gross receipts of telephones. Not too many people have telephones, hard lines anymore. So this contract has dwindled down to about $2,000 a year, but it's still necessary for them to have a franchising agreement. And this is what I'm bringing before you for the next 5 years. We currently have a cable agreement with Cable One, and we have another telephone agreement with Quest, and those won't be due until 2030 and 2034. So this is just adding to the list of agreements we have out there for this type of service. Turn the time back over to Mayor and Council.
Any questions, comments?
And you'll still come every 5 years to renew it?
I think the idea that we have around here is to keep 5-year rolling intervals for all of our contracts. It's so at least you get a touch point with the contractor every 5 years, but also at the same time, you're not just letting them go for years and years and years without any oversight. So it's good every 5 years. I had to learn myself that this was just for telephone. So it's good that we were able to bring ourselves up to speed that this is only for telephone. So
Oh, go ahead.
No, you're okay.
They'll also probably have attachments on our poles. Do
So
they-
my understanding is only Quest does that. They are all below ground when it comes
all
to Valley
below.
Telecom. Yeah, so there is no attachments to any poles that they're aware of throughout the city. If they are, there's a different charge that we do for that type of agreement. It's per pole rather than a gross receipts, so.
Because, well, then you're gonna have more conversation on some of the same thing here in a minute too then, aren't you?
Sorry,
Well-
Mayor, Council.
Well, okay, also, they said they were gonna provide us with maps if we ask for them. That's part of this, isn't it?
Correct. So we have inquired about where the fee comes from and how it was calculated, so they were able to show us the $100,000 of gross receipts they have. They could provide a map to every one of those locations, but my understanding is they use their current fiber to get that telecommunications. So they provide telephone service via their fiber. So they would end up just giving you a fiber map if we requested it, which we already have. We know where all their fiber is laid throughout the city.
And they keep it updated because that would be helpful to our Blue Stake person too.
Correct.
To always have updated maps. We're updating ours all the time. We'd certainly want an updated one from theirs all the time. And I don't know, when I was saying the attachment, those that are on our poles also, certainly whenever they doing anything on our poles, I would hope they would let us know ahead of time because they have attached guys to our poles and strained it so hard it's moved our poles and brought them out of line and compromised them. So I'm hoping any work that is done so that you recognize, sir, that we're notified about it.
So yeah, as we read through the other contracts, Quest being the one that does it on a per pole charge, we're now aware of our liabilities there and our obligations to provide them service. So that agreement doesn't come up till 2034, I think. They got a really long agreement when they did it 13 years ago, and they have multiple extensions. So we'll have to bring that up in 2034, so.
I probably won't be here, so I'm mentioning it now.
We'll put it in the record.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Do we have something on file like this for their fiber optics, for the internet that they offer also? Is that something we charge for?
Mayor, Councilmember Bratner, that's a great question. We were asking, where does fiber fit in these type of agreements? We believe it's through TPT or sales tax, so your fiber bill actually just gets a gross tax receipts based on sales tax. But we're trying to talk with our advisors at the state to see if we can find out how fiber works throughout this. We know how cable works and we know how telephones work, but fiber is still elusive to us, so we're trying to find out more information.
Yeah, because their phone is running through, like they put the box on my property and stuff, so it's the same as the phone.
Correct, but since they provide you telephone service, the gross receipts for the telephone service is actually paid through this contract.
Gotcha.
So,
But the internet is separate.
but the internet is separate. We're not quite sure. We believe they're taxed in some way. We just don't know exactly. We can't pinpoint it. So, complicated tax structure.
Anybody else?
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution R24-032, a franchise contract with Valley Telecom.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution R 24-032, franchise contract Valley Telecom agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It carries.
This approves Resolution Number R24-032, renewal of the Valley Telecommunications License Agreement.
Then we'll move on to item number 2, resolution R 24-034. That's the ADA and AAA modified duty policy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and Council to adopt Resolution Number R24-034, a resolution adopting an ADA and ADAA policy and the updated modified duty policy. Strategic goals include HR management to continue to develop employee support activities that enhance overall employee morale and employee work environment. The background is there has not been an established ADA policy written in the past for the City of Safford. The Americans with Disability Act and the ADA Amendments Act are federal laws that require employees to not discriminate against applicants and individuals with disabilities, and when needed, to provide reasonable accommodations to applicants and employees who are otherwise qualified for a job so that they may perform the essential duties of the position. Benefits to having an ADA and ADAA policy include the policy will establish the city's commitment to the ADA and the ADAA and the city's commitment to not discriminate against qualified individuals with disabilities in all aspects of employment. The policy will institute procedures for applicants, employees, and the city when modified duty and reasonable accommodations are requested. The recommendation is to adopt Resolution R24-034, which establishes an ADA/ADAA, not sure how many A's I just said, policy, and incorporates the updated modified duty procedures. And with that, I'll stand with any questions you may have.
Any questions?
We're trying to work with, sounds like somebody that might get injured or have medical conditions.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and so we're not making any certain deal. We're not trying to go out of our way to make the job so we can keep somebody. We're trying to work with
Correct. So we're not going to create any new job duties or any new positions to accommodate somebody, but for job duties and positions that we have and need to cover for operational needs, we will do what we can to accommodate those with disabilities.
for up to a year if need be.
Yes.
And so one place it says the city will consider a non-competitive reassignment. So that to me means that we will do it.
So when it mentions non-competitive, it means we're going to try to accommodate them if we can, if we have the position, but we're not going to put them through the competitive process where they have to be go through like a competitive hiring process where they're considered with other applicants and have to go through like an interview panel and that kind of thing.
So we can absorb them in other departments if need be, and that'll be helpful to them too.
Correct.
And their pay remains the same?
So when we're making these types of accommodations, the intent is to try to hopefully keep them in the same position, in which, yes, their pay would stay the same. If they're transferring to a different position, it really depends on the scenario, how big of a difference there is in the job duties and the different pay ranges between the jobs. So that would become an interactive process between myself, our employment law lawyer, and the situation at hand.
So we haven't fully identified it yet, but we're going to work on it some more.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Any comments?
Mayor, I make the motion that we approve resolution R24-034, the ADA and the ADAA modified duty policy.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution R 24-034. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. And we'll move on, thank you. We'll move on to item number 3.
Mayor?
Huh?
I need to
sorry.
read it in. This approves resolution number R24-034, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, adopting an ADA and ADAAA policy and an updated modified duty policy in the Human Resources Policy Manual for the city of Safford employees.
Thank you. And we'll go on to item 3, resolution R24-035, tardiness and absentee policy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and Council to adopt Resolution Number R24-035, a resolution adopting an updated tardiness and absenteeism policy. The current tardiness and absenteeism policy has not been updated since 1999 and does not provide sufficient guidance to address most tardiness and absenteeism issues. Clear and defined tardiness and attendance policies are essential to ensure that individuals are accountable for their presence, that everyone is held to the same standards, and they reinforce the importance of being professional and prepared. Notable changes in the new recommended policy include the following. An occurrence system has been added to assist in the disciplinary process as needed, meaning unapproved tardiness and early departures are equivalent to half an occurrence, and unexcused full-day absences are equivalent to a full occurrence. The policy then clarifies how many occurrences result in disciplinary action. Please note that excused absences are not counted towards the occurrence system. Additionally, meal and break time provisions have been added for clarity. Regular breaks allow for employees to recharge, maintain focus, and prevent mental fatigue. A supportive break policy shows that the company values its employees' well-being and is recommended to clarify these breaks in policy. The recommendation is to adopt Resolution R24-035, which establishes an updated tardiness and absenteeism policy that promotes accountability, consistency, productivity, and professionalism. This policy will promote the efficient functioning of city operations by managing attendance, as well as clarify the city's intentions to support regular meal and rest breaks to enhance employee well-being and job satisfaction. With that, I'll stand for questions.
I do have a couple questions on it. I was reading that if they were out for 3 days, you want a letter from a doctor. Are we not violating some of their issues there? By
Mayor,
requesting a letter?
Councilmember Brantner, so as far as FMLA regulations, you can't ask for a doctor's note until they've missed more than 3 days, so we've made sure to write that in this policy as such.
Is that something that's required by us, or what happens if they don't have that? Because, I mean, there's times I've been sick for 3 days and haven't went to a doctor. I mean, I kind of feel like we're forcing them to go to the doctor when maybe they can't afford it or they don't want to.
So we're an employer that is large enough that we have to follow the FMLA laws. And so we are legally obligated to provide FMLA to anybody that misses more than 3 days of work for medical reasons. And that's where the doctor's note is requested and comes into play.
And if they don't have one, then what happens?
It's not typically an issue, but they can take the chance of not getting their leave time approved and not getting their FMLA approved. But FMLA is job protection for the employees, so that is something that they typically would want so that they have that job protection for missing work.
So we could not approve their sick time?
If they don't provide the proper medical certification for the FMLA, we cannot approve the FMLA. We still have Arizona sick pay laws to follow, which is a totally separate law, and it protects employees' sick hours for up to 40 hours in a year. So we have to make sure we're following those laws as well.
Seems like those two are getting, we're
They do.
commingling or something.
So I've taken this policy through our employment law lawyer to check those kind of things. So I'm confident in the policy that it follows those two employment laws. So I'm not concerned that we're not following that. This policy also is in line with our FMLA and sick pay leave policies. So the 3 days is written into those policies as well.
Anybody else?
Right. And how does this work with their family members? They still have some of the same safeguards?
Correct. So FMLA covers immediate family members.
So it's almost the
Yeah.
same deal that they would
Same,
have to
same
deal with.
laws and same protections.
Okay. Now, sometimes we don't look at these policies just because we know we haven't looked at them, and sometimes something draws your attention to it. I'm hoping that we're not having over occurrences of trouble like this in the workforce. And, like, because you stayed in there, take your break on the work site. And
Yes.
stuff like that. So I'm hoping to see that.
Yes. So, Mayor, Council Member Lopez, it's twofold. The reason we're looking at these policies is just because I've made it one of my goals to go through the policy manual and make sure our policies are up to date. So I'm just regularly looking at them and trying to get through the whole policy manual eventually. So you're going to see a few policies come through per year, but we have had some issues with tardiness and absenteeism that need to be addressed. And our policy just didn't have much to it at all. And so that's kind of where this policy came into play.
How much, how much time in advance before somebody isn't excused or tardy?
12 hours.
So in other words, if I'm not gonna go show up tomorrow, I better do it 12 hours ahead of time, right?
If you can, we recognize that there's some instances where that's not going to be the case. I mean, you can get sick right before your shift. So that's why we've made sure that we've tried to put enough occurrences in there to where if that happens a few times a year, it's not a big deal for an employee. Also, we've put into the policy that if that happens and you become sick right before your shift and then you miss several days, it's only the first day that's an occurrence. So you're not going to get, if you're out for 3 or 4 days, you're not going to get 3 or 4 occurrences for that type of situation.
Anybody else?
Well, one quick one, Mayor. Danielle, I know this, like, as you mentioned, this is an issue that needed to be dealt with. So you have information of the absenteeism. On the flip side of that, do you have any indication that there's any issues with us or supervisors, the city properly allowing breaks to occur?
No, it just, as far as the meal and rest periods, it just wasn't in policy. So I added this to the tardiness and absenteeism because I felt like it needed to be clarified to make sure that we show that we're supporting meal and rest periods. But as far as I know, I haven't heard of any issues in that
Okay, good.
regard.
And I wouldn't have thought so, but I'd want to emphasize that we were following that as we should as well.
Yes, as far as I know.
To
we have
balance
been.
that
Yeah.
out.
Anybody else? If not, it's an action item.
Mayor, just a quick comment too. If you look at the policy as written, it would require a pattern of behavior for anything to be coming back to an employee. So everybody's going to miss a day or be late once in a while and not fit within that window. And that won't be an issue for them. That's why they have multiple opportunities to have that happen over the course of a month or a year. Really what it's designed to do is to catch the patterns of behavior that would accumulate over time. So it's not like a one-off and then there's going to be disciplinary action. It's based on patterns of behavior.
Thank you, John. Action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution R24-035, tardiness and absenteeism policy.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution R24-035. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
This approves resolution number R24-035, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, adopting a new tardiness and absenteeism policy in the Human Resources Policy Manual for the city of Safford employees.
And we'll move on to number 4, resolution R24-036, Community Facilities District Policy.
Mayor and council, this is to approve the Community Facility District Policy. You've seen this item many a times. It started in January of this year, that they discussed overall what CFDs are, the various rules and regulations that come with them. That was followed up by a meeting that would just happen in September with our land attorney that qualified what would be in this policy. He talked about what our policy would specifically look like. And at this time, we're asking you to approve everything that was talked about at that September meeting, that this policy would cover 5 different areas, which are general policies. And this is for when applicants come to the city looking to get a CFD, what can they expect from the city? So before they even fill out an application, this policy would set the guidelines for what they need to do for the homeowner that they eventually will be taxing, and the application, what is required of it, and the post-application procedures, what's required there, operations and debt financing, what are the restrictions, what are we allowing, and final, the considerations, general controls established inside the policy. So we've talked about those various functions that are inside the policy. The policy is attached here, but it's everything that we've talked about since January. This is another development tool. Doesn't necessarily mean it's ever going to get used, but this is something that we can start advertising to the general development community, that we have these available. And if you're interested, the city of Safford is open for business for CFDs. So this policy will help them understand what they can expect, what they need to do on their side, and how much it's going to cost them to do that. Because the city will take no financial obligations in doing these CFDs. We're just there to facilitate them. The council's here to create them. And ultimately, the taxpayer will be the one that pays any of the costs associated with them. So I turn the time back to mayor and council for any questions.
I just want to clarify one more time that it'll be the people who are building on this property that'll be the taxed ones, right? Not like all of us as citizens having another tax put on top of our property taxes?
Mayor, Councilmember Bratner, this is for the taxpayers that will be inside that geographical area that the developer is developing. So only those houses that the developer is building will be taxed these specific rates to pay for these specific bonds and these specific debt instruments.
And so the city cannot be on the hook for any, if they go under or whatever happens.
Mayor, Councilmember Bratner. So as you saw through those discussions, we're mitigated through this policy. This policy puts in protections that if that does happen, the property would be sold, and any obligation associated with the taxes are still under that developer until they develop something there. So yes, there's no obligation to the city. There's no upfront cost that we actually would incur here. They have to actually deposit money with the city for any financial obligations that I'd have to do, a municipal advisor, a bond counsel. That's all prepaid. So there is no actual financial liability to the city for these things.
And it would be up to the developer to explain what this is when they're selling and doing business with somebody that's moving in there, to explain how this works?
Mayor, Vice Mayor Lopez. So these are documents you typically see in your deed. So as a savvy mortgage buyer, you have to do your own due diligence on what you're buying, but this is covered in the deed that you'll have these financial taxing districts that you're part of, and that you'll pay any obligation that comes up associated with these. So it's really on the buyer beware, know what you're getting into. As he talked about it, you would necessarily think that this home would possibly be cheaper because we're doing all of this debt financing, but he pointed out the home is going to sell for the market price regardless of what the developer does up front to pay for the infrastructure. So it's not going to be a cheaper home, but it will allow the developer to make those decisions to build here rather than not build here. So
And it's just a tool for us to make us look better, to try to draw people here to build.
And this are, Mayor, Vice Mayor, this is for larger projects. Your one-off houses or your 5 houses, that this isn't the size of policy that you'd be entering. And this is somebody that's coming to you for a 250 home development. This might make sense for them. So these might be few and far between, but there is other localities that we've heard about, Casa Grande, Apache Junction, Marana, that have started these. So we just wanted to have this available to us so that we're open to developers and we're open to develop Safford, right?
Mayor, just a point. I mean, in simplest terms, what this does, the issue that we've been facing is the upfront cost of the investment of the infrastructure. What this does is say that the developer, rather than paying for all that infrastructure up front and then making that land available, is saying, we're going to put a bond out there to get the infrastructure put in place, but the payment for that debt will be shifted to the people who buy homes in the district. So what it is a way to reduce the barrier to entry based on the upfront cost of the infrastructure.
Anybody else? Okay, an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution R24-036, Community Facilities District Policy.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R24-036. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
This approves Resolution Number R24-036, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, adopting a policy that establishes criteria for a community facility district in the City of Safford.
Thank you. And we'll move on to item number 4, excuse me, 14. Number 1, ordinance 024-008. It's an amendment to Title 8, Health and Safety, and Title 17, Zoning of the Safford Municipal Code.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor and Council. Once again, I'm presenting this on behalf of our Planning and Community Development Director, Ms. Imbeck. This is a second read and approval or denial of ordinance 024-008, amendment to Title 8, Health and Safety, and Title 17, Zoning of the Safford Municipal Code. The purpose is request to Mayor and City Council for a second read and approval of ordinance 024-008, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, amending Title 8 Health and Safety and Title 17 Zoning of the Safford Municipal Code for General Development Code, streamlining and updates. Strategic goals include growth and development, also quality of life. Background and analysis. The city manager convened a development team to review and update our processes. Mr. Henry has presented his updates to the subdivision code previously. Planning staff reviewed the current city code and identified sections of Title 8 and 17 that needed to be updated based on meetings with the development team and management. The updates have been presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission on June 17, 2024, and to local developers at a public meeting on July 18, 2024. A council work session was held on September 9, 2024. A first read of the ordinance was completed on September 23, 2024. The updates in Title 8 Health and Safety will continue the work begun by the Neighborhood Officer Program to reduce the amount of blight within the City of Safford. The updates in Title 17 will make building easier and more readily understandable for the local builders. A complete list of the changes is included in Exhibit A in your packets. Some of the changes initiated by the development of the Neighborhood Officer Program and those requested by Council are also included in your packet. The recommendation by staff is for Council to approve ordinance 024-008. That said, I will stand for any questions.
Mayor, I make the motion that we approve ordinance 024-008, amendment to the Title 8 Health and Safety and Title 17 Zoning of the Safford Municipal Code.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 024-008. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
This completes approval of ordinance number 024-008, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, amending Title 17, Chapter 17.28.020 through 17.46.020, use requirements, Chapter 17.52.030F, specific requirements, Chapter 17.68, size and setback regulations, Chapter 17.68.010, summary, Chapter 040A, preliminary plan of development, Chapter 17.76.030, site development plan, Chapter 17.82.080, Number 1, removal of signs, Chapter 17.88.070, fees, Chapter 17.12.030E, portable carports, and Title 8, Health and Safety, Chapters 8.08.010, definitions, and Chapter 8.08.030, owner to maintain premises to streamline and update the development regulations within City of Safford.
Thank you. Okay, item 15, we'll close our regular meeting and reconvene into a work session. You want to take a 10-minute break or just keep on going? We're almost done.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Going.
Let's get it over with.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, our work session. Number 1, media relations policy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. This time I speak for myself, your Assistant City Manager, Eric Bejarano. As I complete my 49th workday with the City of Safford, one of the roles I've been tasked with taking on is reestablishing our PIO, or Public Information Officer role, and that is what this pertains to. The subject of this is our media relations policy. The purpose, this is a request for Mayor and Council to hold a work session for discussion of the proposed media relations policy. Our strategic goals include public information and outreach. The background includes, since its incorporation in 1955, the City of Safford has not had a formal media relations policy in place. This new policy will lay the foundation for effective communication both internally and externally, providing a streamlined process for managing public and media interactions. It is designed to ensure consistent, accurate, and timely information sharing, strengthening the city's transparency and accountability. The analysis is such. The City of Safford's media relations policy has been developed to establish clear guidelines for effective communication with the public and the media. This policy ensures that information is disseminated in a timely, accurate, and consistent manner, fostering transparency and accountability. It applies to all city employees, elected officials, and representatives with the goal of streamlining interactions with the media and maintaining a unified message. By centralizing media inquiries through the Public Information Officer, or PIO, or the Assistant City Manager, we can ensure cohesive public messaging and enhance the city's relationship with the media. The policy also outlines specific procedures for press releases, social media use, and crisis communications to ensure the city's communications are professional and aligned with its values. Compliance with the policy is mandatory for all city representatives, and regular training will be provided to ensure best practices are followed. The recommendation is as such. Staff recommends for the proposed media relations policy to be reviewed by City Council and to advise staff if any edits are necessary. With that said, I'll stand for any questions.
Do you have any questions?
And this is a work session, so
We're open.
it's more open.
More of a comment, Mayor, and it's like the ADA policy. I'm always excited when we address these gaps that we sometimes have. So I'm excited to see how we work through this. But I also want to point out that over the last few months, even without this, staff has done a really good job with these types of things. Chief Avila, and utilities, on the social media posts, it's been a big improvement, I've thought, over the last few months. So this will only help to pull it together even more.
And a lot of that actually is coming through Mr.
Right.
Bejarano. So he's going out there and actually taking quite an interest on a variety of levels, this being the kind of the first bite at the apple.
This will be good.
I hope how we do it, like, social media and Facebook and all those different things. Just keep in mind that there's some elderly people or people like myself, we don't utilize that stuff. We have to make sure we can communicate that everybody is getting the message.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. So, great point. Actually, to Council Member Hempel's comment there, the media has been excellent at picking up not only social media posts that we've presented on behalf of the city, but also media releases. In fact, they're probably tired of reading them at this point, but we will continue. But the information flow is there, which has been great.
You're saying this is mandatory for everyone.
Mr. Mayor and Vice Mayor, yes, it is.
I'm not sure I can comply with it. Sometimes I'm asked things out in the middle of the public, and I don't have the time to check with you. I would have to respond. Keep in mind, I do try to make sure, I try to use logic when I'm thinking and answering so that we stay within the policies, but I can't guarantee you I can comply with it.
Good point, Mr. Mayor and Vice Mayor. So one of the stipulations built into this policy, especially when we pertain to or think of our chief of police or chief of fire, if something comes up that's of urgent nature, such as you're describing now in interacting with the community, they can respond. However, they do need to update me or my designee, just so we know that that conversation has occurred. I feel that our regular interaction with mayor and council would align perfectly with that, so we could make that edit and add that to this policy.
Usually when I'm asked things, it has to involve facts or stuff that you do, the staff, I would need the staff to tell me what's going on, so I try to hesitate answering just on the fly. But even if, like the podcast, I know you record it, so you'll edit it and all that kind of stuff. But something like that that's happening in real time, that would still have to be cleared by you the way this is worded prior to.
Well, Mayor and Vice Mayor, good point, but I believe that's why we're having the work session, so we can take into account all considerations and topics. This policy was drafted by pulling other municipalities' policies, working with our leadership team, and then being vetted by our attorney as well. So any edits we're happy to make.
Yeah, because for Voice of the Valley, for example, we're not sure exactly where that conversation is going to lead. We may have our talking points ready for it, but you know how rough that can be sometimes. So that's why I'm saying I don't know that I can comply with it. And I don't know what brought this on. What, is there something going on that, again, the question like I asked Human Resources, that's brought your attention to this?
Eric, just let me jump in for a second. This actually was a goal for me, not in the current year, but in the prior year, which I did not achieve. And so one of the first things that I asked Mr. Bejarano to address was the fact that I had not addressed this issue with council. So the genesis of the activity was really council tasking me with creating this policy, which I had not gotten to. So Mr. Bejarano stepped in and did what I think is a pretty good first job, first bite at the apple. And again, as he's noted, we're in a work session, so we're looking for feedback to make any adjustments we need to make. But it originally actually was a request from council to me.
You know, one thing that I kind of use as a rule of thumb is that when I'm out in public and somebody asks me, something about the city or what, if I'm not sure what I'm going to respond, I refer them to the city, either the city manager or, that type thing. If I can't, not sure of the answer or give them the wrong information, I refer them to the city. That's what I do.
And you
Well,
may,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
In my position, whenever I'm having to deal with people, with the public, my constituents or whatever, I just let them know that I need to consult with you or with the assistant city manager to get clarification, or I can have you contact them. So, I'm okay either way. Mr. Bejarano did an excellent job, I feel, on this, and we do need a PIO within the city so that we have clarification on stuff going on. So that's where I stand right now.
Yeah, and the intention of the policy is not to, certainly wouldn't be to get between you and your constituents. I mean, those interactions are going to happen. They're going to be organic, but they're not going to be something where we're projecting that message out to the general public through like a press release or a radio show. And even if you were to go on a radio show, you might go on it and just maybe pick up the phone and let Mr. Bejarano know that, say, hey, I was on the radio show. You may want to give a listen. The intention is not to govern every single thing you say about the city. In some cases, we may be made privy after the fact, but at least we'll know about it so that if we get inquiries as a result of it, we can react. But certainly in the case, I know Councilman Andazola, you're very active in the community. You send me stuff all the time. The policy is not intended to get between you and that interaction, that you have to gatekeep with us in order to do that. Really, as you state, it's really something that you make us aware of after the fact in case we have to react to it or we get questions ourselves. So there'll be instances where even on the radio, you could probably let somebody know that you're going on the radio. The point would not be to run you through a mock interview process to make sure that everything you were going to say would be vetted through us. We just would like to be aware of it, so if we have to respond to it.
Well, my personal feeling on all this, just use common sense. Whatever it is, what the answer is going to be. You don't have to toy around with it or nothing like that. Use your common sense and your best judgment. So if you can't do that, then
And again, if we need to make any edits, we can do that. That's the purpose of this meeting. So actually, I was very happy. I know Matthew and I had taken a look at this earlier, and we had a lot of details and a lot of volume. And when Mr. Bejarano came back with what he did, I was very happy with the ground that it covers and the fact that it does it pretty succinctly. So again, I think it's a good step. I think if council has some reservations or anything, we certainly can make adjustments.
I'd like to see a little bit more clarification on the social media content. I understand that employees can share the posts. I just don't agree with the part where they cannot make personal comments. I mean, apparently, we don't want them disparaging, but I think for us to limit their First Amendment, saying, no, you can't make a comment, I think that goes a little too far because we're forgetting that they're also a normal, everyday citizen. So if they want to make a comment, I think they should be able to, just not disparaging against the job.
Is there a
That's-
specific section in there that you're referencing?
It
I have it.
says, employees are encouraged to share official city social media posts, but shall not make personal comments. That's kind of not fair. We're saying, hey, go ahead and share the post, but don't make a personal comment. That's not really
I think
fair.
the key there is on behalf of the city.
Yes, to answer that, it's the or part, or engage in debates on behalf of the city. In no way are we trying to restrict someone's right to have a voice, but if they're going to speak on behalf of the city, we are asking to restrict that.
Such as, there needs to be more examples in there, because that's pretty broad, so.
We can certainly take it to our attorney and see what advice he has to clear that up and present it to council at a later time.
I'd like more clarification on that, because like me as a council member, if I want to go out and post, hey, tonight we're going to be discussing A, B, C, and D, I think we should be allowed to do that. Like, hey, here's the agenda for tonight. We're going to be talking about A, B, C, and D. If you can't make it out, here's the YouTube thing. I'm not sure that's something that should be limited. I mean, that's kind of speaking on behalf, but that's more of our job as council to get the city involved, the citizens.
Certainly, we can, well, he's on, so let's see what he has to say if I can get the mic over to him.
No, they can hear him. Can you hear that? Can you hear us, Bill?
They can hear you, Bill.
Almost.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Yes.
Mayor and Council, I got stuck on a flight out of Dallas, so I got here late, so I'm not on your Zoom, so I'm on my cell phone. This is a good first start. There are two components to it. One, addressing employee communications, and I think I've heard some good conversation. You want the fire chief and the police chief to be able to respond rapidly. For other employees, I think there's a distinction. They do have a First Amendment right, but if they're speaking on behalf of the city, then they do need to coordinate their comments with the city's position. This has nothing to do with elected officials' comments. You have the right to speak to your constituents completely. And there was a concern that the language suggested the staff would manage elected officials' conversations. No. All we need clerks, when you use Facebook and you're accomplishing city business, that creates public record. But it's a nightmare. And so what we're going to do, and be easy to establish this policy, is to ask you to look at your correspondence and forward to her on a monthly basis those communications you believe are sufficiently formal and describe city business so she can keep it in the record. This is not meant to put a muzzle on the elected officials, nor is it meant to deny the employees' First Amendment rights. It is meant to make sure that when employees speak, they are on behalf of the city, that their comments are consistent with city positions. That's sort of where we're going. This is just the first step. And I'm sorry that I had to do this on a phone because of a late flight.
And I think if you look at that provision, it says employees are encouraged to share official city. It's not intended, so if you have your own website or Facebook that you have a conversation, you just need to make clear you're speaking on behalf of yourself, not on behalf of the city. So you can still have the conversation, by simply acknowledging that the position that you take is your own and not necessarily on behalf of the city.
Okay, that's like the clarification, because I don't want employees thinking,
Sure.
well, I can share it, but I can't talk about it, 'cause
Right.
that kind of wouldn't be fair.
Right, and these are
Understood.
official positions.
Is there a proofreader to what gets sent out? Like if Mr. Bejarano sends out a whatever,
Good question. And typically, yes. However, this weekend, a typo was found and brought to my attention. Normally, I utilize, when I send out posts, a number of things to review and edit, Grammarly, Word products, et cetera, on a laptop instead of a cell phone. However, the post I put out this weekend was timely about the fair and the involvement in the fair parade, so I utilized a cell phone and had a misspelling that I'll say on the record was the word both instead of booth. So that might be also attributed to not wearing these things, but it does happen from time to time.
just, I know when the manager was out for a week, you put something out and I saw it first in social media or maybe online newspaper, but I didn't get a copy of it. And I wondered what the timeline of putting that stuff, does it go out to everybody at the same time? Or is there certain people that get it first and have a chance to say, hey, I don't think that's what you meant, or did you really mean this before it goes to everybody? Or does it go to everybody at once?
Right, so when we issue a media release, and perhaps it's the one you were, perhaps what you are talking about is a quote that was in the local paper, and that was brought to my attention. The original quote was correct. The paper misquoted the written quote that was provided to them, and then the paper did go back and make that edit once it was brought to their attention, if that answers your question. But it does go out to all of our media partners at the same time.
Well, I think that is the one I'm asking about, but I didn't receive it when they did, so I couldn't compare. And so I was kind of worried about it for a minute.
Right, no, that was brought to my attention, and I immediately looked at my original posting, which was correct. The follow-up was incorrect.
And I think I asked in one meeting before, like, when those press releases go out, do we get those ahead of time, or are we just, I mean, because there's been some that have gone out that I've seen on Facebook, and I haven't come to us first, and I've kind of gotten sideswiped on those by my clients coming in, asking me, and I didn't know what was going on.
If mayor and council would like any press releases to come your way first, I can certainly do that.
I'd just like to have a heads up so that we're not getting sideswiped.
I think we get them on the
That might
email.
be a good point.
Don't
We
we get them on
do.
the email?
Yeah, we normally do.
Sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
I'll check our email list and make sure it's consistent.
It'd be nice to formulate some answers before the questions get there.
Fair enough. I can work on that. Thank you.
I think there was one Veterans Day thing. I don't know if you saw the post, but you guys had put like 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. And I kind of commented, I said 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. So I don't know if you saw that, but it was like a flyer you guys put out on the City of Safford, I think the activities page. So I commented on there. I was like, wow, that's a really long event.
No, that's a good point, and actually speaks to this media relations policy. Right now, we don't have oversight of every city page, whereas this policy would help correct that, where not only the clerk, but I would have oversight and edit abilities on every page where I do not now.
It seems like we have a few more pages. We've got City of Safford page, the activity page. There's quite a few that are popping up now. I don't think the airport's ever really messed anything up. That one's been really good. It's still really out there, which is great.
Right, and again, it's to put more eyes on what we're releasing in a more streamlined fashion, as well as some safeguards in there as well, should employees in their employment with the city, so that we have other folks to manage those sites and take over those postings, et cetera.
And we know that all our laptops, phones, and everything are all public, could be subject to public record anyway. So we already because we already try to avoid any craziness taking place on there. And is there a third party that we have that monitors what we put out and gathers that data?
There is, and it'd probably be better to turn that over to the clerk to answer.
Mayor, Vice Mayor Lopez, so yes, we use a company called Archive Social. That's a program through Civic Plus that we pay a subscription annually for. And then we just go in there, create our own login. Anybody that is an admin for any of our social media sites, they go in, make their own login with Archive Social, and then they can link those accounts through Archive Social, and we don't have to do anything. Any comments that are made, that are deleted, anyone that's blocked, any type of threads, anything that is changed within our social media platform, once it's out there, any edits, it's all archived for us.
Captured for us already.
Yes. And in the event that I receive a public record for a specific social media post, I can just go on there, search it by, a keyword. It'll give me a list of things that match that keyword. And once I find the correct post, I just export it and they send me an email with the thread. So it's an official report that comes from the social media. So it won't be like screenshots, but it'll be an actual report provided through Archive Social from the social media platform to provide the record request.
So would that apply? Would we still need, like Mr. Sims said, we needed to print and give it to you once a month? Would that pick that up instead?
So that only applies if in the event that you receive a message like through your personal email, your personal Facebook, that you feel like, hey, I ended up discussing business, a city business. Hey, city clerk, here's the thread that happened, just in case anybody ever asks about it. But yeah, it doesn't apply if you have your personal Facebook, personal Instagram. We won't archive that.
No, like we all have our elect pages. If we were to post onto that, like, hey, here's the agenda for tonight. We're going to talk about X, Y, and Z. It wouldn't pick up that?
So we only archive it if you link it through Archive Social. So in the event that you made not just your profile, but an actual Facebook page, and you labeled it City of Safford Councilwoman Bratner, then in that case, you would want to reach out to me so I can give you a link to Archive Social so you can make your own login and link it there.
Okay.
Nobody else can see it unless they're admins of that page.
Okay.
Yeah. And so then whatever you're sharing on there, if someone comments on there, someone messages you through there, it would archive all that.
And what is the basis of the things you're discussing? Because this isn't something that staff came up with, right? This is based on legal requirements.
Correct. Yeah, it's for the open meeting law, and then public records. Anything as an elected official or us as government employees, everything is public record. So any business that you do on any city-owned laptop, cell phones, iPads, any type of Facebook platform or social media platform that you have, and that covers from X, TikTok, Instagram. I mean, you name it, they have to archive it. And it's social media is so prominent now that it does become a public record, and people want to see what is being commented, what kind of messages are you receiving there. But again, it's only once you label it that you're representing directly City of Safford, that is when we want to step in and have you archive that.
And that's the case that I had before, remember? Whenever I had my Facebook page, whenever I linked the city, remember when I linked the city and I put down all the information? You don't want to do that. If you can, if you want to, but just like the clerk is saying, it has to be all archived.
Bill,
It's
did
for
you have some-
Mr. Mayor, to answer, can you hear me okay now?
Yes,
Can you hear me?
yes.
To answer John's question, this is been heavily analyzed by the Attorney General and by the Ombudsman. And what Dee is telling you, she's done a great job of trying to track social media for public records. And what Dee is telling you is the best way to proceed. And she and I together using the manual and the Ombudsman.
Right, and that's kind of what I was trying to say, is that it's not that staff has come up with a way of designing these things. There are laws that guide how we go about doing this, because one of the big concerns that emerged as social media became larger is this leakage, right, of how communication is done. And so there are a lot of guidelines regarding social media. And then the other point I wanted to kind of come back to, which is I think it's going to be exceedingly difficult for staff to vet every press release with the council. I mean, if we send out a press release, are we going to sit there and wait until we hear back from every single council member as to whether or not that's something that everyone is in agreement with? Usually it's something regarding official city business, so hopefully the only issue we have would be, errors in content, which are typos. But the actual message itself, I think if we try to vet every press release through the council, I don't see how that's practical.
I don't think we need to vet it, but if we were on the email list that got it simultaneous
Right,
to the courier or
okay,
I think we'd at least be able to
okay. That sounds good.
peruse it
Yeah.
just about as
And
quickly
provide
as anybody
feedback.
else, right?
Yeah, because we could always make adjustments to it if you caught anything or felt something wasn't appropriate.
So, talking about the legalities of some things, on almost everything we do, ordinance, resolutions and everything, there's a place there for the attorney to sign that he checks it over per, per form. That sometimes we pass things.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, you're right. I'll be looking at them and signing off.
Okay, because I don't know when we pass some things, and to me, they become official, and it seems like they become official before you've signed it, too. And is that the case? I don't know. I don't know when you jump on, sir, and look it over for us. So,
Dee sends them to me, as does the rest of the staff. And then Troy and everyone, and then I look at them and approve them, and they come to you, and then Dee sends them back to me for signature.
okay, so normally you've seen them before we do, which is what I hope.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
And that's actually part of our
Yes, sir.
submission process. It'll have a request that the date that the attorney reviewed it, if it requires attorney review, is part of the submission.
because per form doesn't always mean, I don't think, always mean that everything's legal and stuff. It's per the form of the document, I think.
Right.
But, okay, that's all I have, Mayor.
Anybody else?
So to kind of bring this back around, are there any specific changes that you would like to see in the policy? I know we had focused on the social media and the idea employees are encouraged to share official city social media posts, but shall not make personal comments or engage. Is there still a need for us to make any edits there, or did the conversation clear up any confusion?
I think it was clear as long as we leave in the part on behalf of the city so that they know they can still comment.
Okay.
I still don't think I'm going to be able to achieve it.
Well, again, it doesn't, and I think Bill was addressing, this doesn't address your interactions with constituents. You still are free to engage with your constituency. And generally speaking, no one's going to know that, just you and them, unless you make it a point to convey it to us that maybe there's something you require. So this is really when we're putting things out as an official city position, not if you're engaging with people, they have concerns, and then you convey those to us. That really wouldn't be covered under this policy.
It's going to be useful to me. I'm not saying that it's not.
Right.
I'm just saying coming out of the gate, I don't know if I can achieve it.
It shouldn't inhibit you in any way in terms of, even if you're going on the
No
radio.
matter how much common sense is wished on me.
All right, well, we'll do our best, and I guess we'll expect that you do the same.
I'll give it a try.
Yep.
Maybe. If I have more comments, I'll certainly let you
And
know.
please do. I mean, the point of these work sessions is really to put, I mean, generally speaking, a lot of these policies, a lot of councils don't even look at these. It was a few years ago, we started bringing these for council review, and we're looking for council input. We're looking to see if, let's get it right, and everybody's on the same page. So again, it may not always be perfect, but at least you get a chance to look at it. So if you have comments or you think of something later on, you can always email Eric and let him know what it is. And again, we can check with Bill to make sure legally it meets our requirements. But I mean, we're looking for the feedback. We're looking to make the changes before we pass the policy.
We'll go ahead and close the work session and reconvene into our regular meeting. Item number 18, announcement of current events. Anybody?
Wanted to remind Mayor and Council, this weekend is our free dump weekend.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so remind your constituents if they've got loads of garbage, this is the weekend to get out there, so.
Anybody else?
I would kind of like to know when and if there might be some flyers for the air show, because it's coming up quick, and I've been talking my head off about it. I need to take some of them to the reservation.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor Lopez, I can get some to you at any time. I have some printed ones. They're all over downtown, but I'm more than happy to get you some copies if you'd like.
Okay, sir, thank you.
And real quick, just a reminder that this weekend is the Harvest Festival and the Oktoberfest on City Hall lawn. Harvest Fest is first from 10 to 3, and then Oktoberfest starts from 3 to 11. Hopefully you guys can make it out.
We'll go on to item number 19, request for future agenda items. Anybody?
I don't know that I'm requesting it to be on the agenda, but something in consideration. I would like it not to be like it's being identified across the nation and brought that much political attention to it, but I ourselves, the city, I'd like to see how we could come up with an indigenous recognition, like they have Indigenous People Day, and how we can recognize that. And that thought also was strengthened this weekend at the parade, how many people entered that were from that part of the county. And maybe this next year coming up, or somehow we can work with the rest of the communities to bring this to light in our county and leave the outside politics of the world out and just recognize our world famous Apaches.
You can do that.
Anybody else? And if not, we'll move on to item number 20.
I make the motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're out of here.